Hello, and welcome back to MetalDisciple.com's Metalheads podcast. My name is George.
And I'm Buke.
And here we are with episode 10. We've reached double digits.
That's great.
Last time I mentioned how I was going to be putting up the music that I wrote and recorded back in the 90s and early 2000. I was going to be posting it on YouTube. That has come to fruition. You can now get as much of my crappy music as you want if you go to youtube.com/disciple of metal, disciple OV metal. That'll take you to the main page. Along the left side of the page, there's a list of playlists. All the songs are grouped by album. There's a bunch by The Forsaken, 2 by The King is Dead, and 1 Sons of Destiny. So check that out if you want a good laugh.
Actually, Matt came over a couple weeks back, and we actually, I can put YouTube on the Xbox One, and we actually sat there and hung out and just let them play.
Really?
Yeah, we just let them play. That was kind of like the music. He brought his wife over, and that was like the music for us all hanging out.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was your music.
Was it just the Sons of Destiny stuff, or was it the
all
other
of it?
Stuff?
All
really?
of it. Yep.
Oh gosh, I bet you had a good laugh at that.
Some of it's
pretty bad.
Yeah. But hey, I give you a lot of credit, buddy, for putting it out there.
Yeah, got to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
Got to end somewhere. All right. So I was thinking the other day about a reunion I'd like to see, and that would be Glenn Danzig and guitar player John Christ. John Christ was on the first 4 Danzig albums. After that, he left, and I don't know, I heard he did some music for CNN or something, but and pretty much from that point on, all Danzig albums have just sucked ass.
Wow.
And so, Glenn's a very proud and curmudgeonly old man.
That's what I've heard.
So it seems to me like he would not go chasing down John Christ, be like, come on, man, come back, let's make some music. And John Christ seemed to be pretty much, well, I don't need this, so I can do my own thing. But I would really like to see that because I really like the music on those first 4 Danzig albums.
Thinking about that, I can't, you're trying to capture that magic again. And we mentioned it during our Power Metal episode, and I know it's not going to happen, but if, I can't think of his name right now, but if the second vocalist of 3 Inches of Blood was to ever come back,
yeah, and
they were to capture that sound of their first album, Advance and Vanquish, I'd be pretty into that.
Yeah. Well, one can hope.
You just wish, some of these bands, I don't know if there was bad blood leaving, maybe they just, ran their course.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
And maybe he just got tired of putting up with Glenn.
Now, what's your favorite Danzig album?
Probably 2, Lucifuge.
That's not what, of course, people would go for.
Really? Why not?
People would go for their self-titled, because most people, know Mother.
Yeah, but that's probably the only song on there they know. I mean, the
Does
first...
She Rides, you don't think?
Oh, yeah, they play that at the strip clubs. I mean, in terms of people knowing things, sure. I mean, Mother's the song everybody knows by Danzig. And the first self-titled album would easily be my second favorite. But 2, it's got, Her Black Wings and Devil's Plaything and Tired of Being Alive. It's just a killer album.
I need to listen to that more. I will admit, I haven't given the rest of the albums a fair shake.
Oh, yeah, you need to listen to 2.
You've seen him live?
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. How is he live?
Hit or miss. I mean,
shirt off, flexing the muscles.
I don't recall. It's been a while. Unfortunately, every time I've seen him was after John Christ left the band. I saw him on the Black Acid Devil tour, Danzig 5. Wasn't all that impressed. Saw him again. I don't even remember, but it was like meh.
Did you ever see him here, or were these all back home?
That's a good question. The first time, the Black Acid Devil was in Michigan.
Because I can't think of a time he's come around and we have talked and said, hey, we should,
Yeah, it's because I haven't really cared to go see him again since, it's been so long since he's put out an album that I've liked. The last one, Red Dead Redemption, was it? No. Dead Red Sabbath or something.
The video game, Red Dead Redemption?
I was making a joke. But whatever that wasn't too bad. That was a bit of a return to form. But, I don't know. We'll have to see if he does anything else. Anyway, so I know you haven't heard it yet. You've only heard pieces of it. But I've listened to the new Opeth album.
Don't do this to me. Yeah. See, to me, I'm a big, as I'll talk about later, again, with my classic album, I'm a big sci-fi guy.
Uh-huh.
Big time. Star Wars is my favorite movies.
I'm with you there.
In anticipation for this next one, am shying away from any trailer, stuff like that.
Right.
Snippet, picture, anything I can. So that's how I'm treating this new Opeth. Mm-hmm. I'm shying away from, except the one song, Cusp of Eternity.
Cusp of Eternity, yeah.
I'm just kind of waiting. And then you put this in our notes here. And you sent me, you put it in the notes, and then last week you sent me the text saying, it's
eh.
You said I would like it, though, so
I think you'll like it because, A, it's Opeth. That's all that matters to you.
Yeah, that is.
And because... particularly with your vinyl tastes these days, you're into that hippy-dippy prog rock 70s bullshit.
Yeah, I am.
That is now Opeth. I want to be clear that I liked Heritage. I don't have any problem with the direction they're going in, other than the fact that Pale Communion is not even a metal album, let alone a death metal album. It is pure 70s prog rock.
But they hold nothing back in saying that they are anymore.
No, and this is true. And I'm not slagging on them because of it. It's just that it is now a style of music that I don't care for. The production sounds great. It was much cleaner than Heritage. And some of it's okay, but it's just really so out there that I'm just like, I just got kind of bored.
This is interesting. I literally just came to mind as we're sitting here thinking about it. We had kind of mentioned this in the past, but not this question. If you're a Opeth fan, mm-hmm. from, I'm talking the Orchid days, the Morning Rise, your Blackwater Park, Ghost Reveries, the classic, death metal Opeth.
Right.
Is it easy for you to transition into what they are now because you got Damnation? Mm-hmm. You had always been used to the cleaner sound that they have. Then, on the flip side, their first exposure to Opeth, maybe going to the store later this month, picking this album up, and saying, hey, Opeth.
Pretty cool.
I'm liking this. And then buying Orchid or something.
I'm going, whoa.
And like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be people like that.
But I'm saying, what do you think's the easier transition?
Oh, definitely the one that I've had, where I bought the first two albums when they came out. And, I've evolved with them over the years.
You're not me.
I'm not holding this album against them. I'm not disowning them. I'm not talking bad about them in any way, other than to say it really isn't to my taste. I can guarantee you that it is a good album, that even a great album, it just doesn't fall within what I am interested in listening to anymore.
So still doesn't dethrone Triptychon?
Oh, hell no. Nothing will dethrone Triptychon.
I was just wondering if it would... for album of the year, is it possibly on making top 10 so
top 10? I doubt it. I don't know. I only listened through it once, so it could, conceivably grow on me. But first impression was I turned it off and had to come back to it because I got bored.
And that's an interesting thing. Us as heavy metal fans and stuff like that, Opeth's new direction and stuff it's weird that with the sound that they have and stuff now, you have us, Metal Sucks, Metal Injunction, Blabbermouth, all these metal sites covering them, when metal is, yes, obviously what they play live, but metal is so far what they've become now, that now I'm surprised you're not starting to see more mainstream music.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
So I guess since we're not into that, we're not seeing it.
Exactly.
It's just interesting that, metal heads and metal, still cover them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's like Anathema. They started off as a doom metal band in the 90s, and now they are anything but metal. And they still get covered by all the metal magazines and things like that.
That's just interesting on its own. It's almost like you're still
You're still part of the family, but... You're that weird cousin.
Yes, you are.
All right, well, last week we talked a little bit about the new Fozzy album, and you were asking me, is it any good? Is it heavy? And I hadn't heard it yet, but based on their previous albums,
you were kind of excited.
I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I have since listened to the new Fozzy album. I retract anything good I said.
Oh, boy.
As a piece of shit.
Oh, boy.
No offense to Chris Jericho, but what's with the pop album? It sounds so not... It has some heaviness to it, but it sounds very, very pop. I just don't even know what to say.
Like FM radio.
They really changed their sound. So, sorry, can't get behind that one.
So that's all we're talking about that. No more excitement for them.
No, they'll have to prove themselves to me to get back on my good side again.
So this past week, I was watching, as I've been up with the baby at various times. One of the days this week, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And after a long Dirty Jobs Netflix marathon, I said, let me find what documentaries are out there. I always like to watch documentaries. And one came up for a documentary called Downloaded. And it was about Napster. And it had me thinking, and actually excited to text you and have us throw it in here to the podcast, because I wanted to ask you a couple questions. First off, Napster hit for me 99, 2000.
Sounds about right.
I was senior in high school when that stuff was really hitting.
Yeah.
I told you before 2000, when I really bought metal CDs, my music was if I had 10 CDs by year 2000, I had a lot.
Yeah.
Like, this documentary got me thinking. I wanted to ask you first a couple questions, but first off, I wanted to ask you, when did you become aware of Napster? Or even before that, when did you become aware that, hey, I know you work in the field, not music field, but computers and stuff.
Yeah.
When did you become aware that, hey, I can download music? Something that I know you personally, as my best friend, is having walls and walls of CDs.
Right.
When did you become aware of that, hey, look, I can type in whatever, just like I just said, Opeth, boop, 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 here it is.
I don't remember the year.
Okay.
I was never a big Napster fan, to be honest. I didn't really care for the interface. And
yeah, it was clunky.
Yeah.
The speeds at the time hurt.
I didn't really use it much. I did use a couple other services at the time.
Like LimeWire and stuff after that?
There was one called Audio Galaxy that I used. They, like Napster, they eventually went legit, and then a couple years ago got bought out. What they had actually been doing was really cool. It was a really cool, legit service, and then Apple bought them and killed it, and then didn't do anything with the service. So I was kind of pissed at Apple about that. But back in the day, Audio Galaxy was, you go in, you search on a band or an album, it would come back with a list of search results, people that had it, and you'd basically just click on it and it would go into a queue and it would download. Not that I would ever do anything illegal like that. But back at the time, I did use it to like fill in gaps and things. But the thing was, it was very sketchy quality.
It was. You didn't know if you were going to download a whatever Megadeth, and it was going to be somebody holding up a recorder to a radio, or you didn't know if it was going to be what you get now, like one of the Beep demo tracks or something like that. You didn't know what you were going to get,
or if it was even just a virus. It was. So there wasn't much use to it.
Okay, and then this also led me into my next question. This was probably the most interesting thing at the time, watching the documentary I took from it. Did you, because the record industry seemed to be still stuck in the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
In terms of how they were looking at digital music and Napster.
Oh, it took them a while to catch up.
How they were looking at, because the people who were so behind Napster were amazed that I could be like, hey, George, check this out. Boom. Share it with you. The exchange of music, like, has always been one of the best things about music, the word of mouth, the sharing of music. But it seemed like of course, where we are now with digital music, the record industry was in the Stone Ages. I wanted to ask you, did you at the time see what was happening? Did you see the writing on the digital wall in a sense?
Not right away. Because of the crappy quality of what was going on, it didn't seem like a real threat at the time. It was a neat idea. It was around that time that I decided it was time to take all my walls of CDs and start ripping them, because I think that was probably around the time the iPod came out as well.
Yeah, you and I started really hanging out like the early 2000, 2001, 2002, and that's when we started ripping CDs. And of course, we weren't putting them online and sending them out there.
No.
We weren't seeding our files for people, but...
No, I may have downloaded a thing here or there, but I was never a seeder.
Yeah, yes. To me, it was always just a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But did you see the digital format for what it was and what it would turn into at the time when the Napster was going?
It took me a while. I thought it was really neat because I have so much music, so many CDs. I still have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cassettes. Mm-hmm. You know, at least 600 cassettes in a box out in the garage. So to me, it seemed like a really convenient way to be able to move around a lot of stuff. You know, both of us used to have these big folders full of CDs that we'd lug around in our car.
You and I could kill each other like gladiators with them.
Yeah. And so to be able to, you know, and even then you only could get like maybe a couple hundred albums in a folder.
And of course, you go to some party with them and some asshole steals them or something.
Exactly. It's a dangerous thing to do. So the prospect of ripping all your albums, putting them on a hard drive, not only is it allow for organization, but the portability of, you know, for as long as I've been having digital music, I've been waiting for a way to take all my music with me. I have yet to do that because they have never made an iPod big enough to hold all my music. But now with streaming, I mean, like Spotify, I can't take my whole collection with me because Spotify doesn't have all the obscure stuff that I have.
And even this weird thing about Spotify, I was looking last night, if you type in like a Doom band and you click similar artists, it always seems to just recommend the same, you know?
That's because it's
similar circle.
It's a very limited, you know,
service
that they have. It's good for what it is. I use it. I'm subscribed, but there are other services that are still pretty fledgling that allow you to set up your music on your computer at home and stream it to your phone. So you have your whole collection. I've yet to find one that really truly worked well. So I've been through a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I think iSub is the one, or Subsonic, something like that. I think iSub is the app and Subsonic is the service, is the one that I have now. And half the time it can't connect. So it's, you know, it's iffy at best, but it would be really nice to have my whole collection available. So when I'm like at work or driving in the car or sitting on the beach and I'm like, oh, I want to hear that Megadeth song. And I don't have it on my phone. Damn, Spotify doesn't have it. Damn. There it is. Instant gratification. Okay,
and then the last question I wanted to, I remember this vividly. You being at the time, fuck Lars, fuck Metallica.
Money good,
yeah,
Napster bad.
Elaborate on that, because there were some artists, okay, there were some rappers. There was, like, Henry Rollins always finds a way to get into every documentary.
He does.
But there was some artists, I think he may have been one of them, speaking correctly here, but there were some artists who, hey, fully embraced it.
Yeah, Iron Maiden.
Yeah, they didn't look at it as, hey, you are stealing money from us. They looked at it as, hey, if you want to, and a perfect example, this is not a metal band, but there's a band, Dispatch. College jam band type of thing. They fully embraced it. They became a band that was playing college parties and stuff like that. They got behind kids trading their music and stuff like that. Dispatch now is a major band playing arenas, you know, like Fillmore's and stuff like that.
That's not an arena.
You know, not arena, but you know, large venues like that.
Sure.
But then again, on the flip side, you have Lars Ulrich flying the anti-Napster flag, showing up at Napster headquarters with boxes and boxes and boxes, pages and pages and pages of Napster users downloading their tracks.
Yeah. Well, at the time, it seemed kind of a douchey move by Metallica because everybody's like, Metallica's the biggest band in the world. They've got all the money in the world. Why do you need more money? Why are you complaining? But obviously, you know, this was a new concept to them. It was a new concept to many people at the time. And obviously, a lot of the backlash came from people that had no idea how much this would affect the music industry, and it has to, you know, a very large extent killed off a great piece of the music industry.
That was how the documentary ended. Like it or not, Napster changed the music industry forever.
Sure.
Killed labels, made bands.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, the system that was in place before, it was all about the labels. Artists were indentured servants.
That's what they mentioned in there, too.
And so it wasn't really that great a system. It's not that big of a loss, unless you happen to be a record label, to lose that aspect of the industry. So in a way, digital was kind of like a great purging, because now, yes, people could download the music for free, and that hurts the artists ultimately. But now also anybody can get into the game. And now...
Look how many bands you and I have been able to find digitally.
Oh, yeah.
That we have never been able... We were missed.
So much of the music I listen to now is unsigned bands who have put together their own music. They've released it themselves online.
We would have never heard them.
Never heard it.
Unless their CD could have been placed in our hands.
Exactly.
But again, the last we're end on this, do you remember what your anger towards Metallica was? Because for a while, I remember it vividly.
Oh, yeah.
You were like, fuck Lars, and this is...
I even wrote a song at the time. It's called Avarice.
Okay.
That I talked about, giving away my music instead of, complaining about it being stolen. But that was, 14 years ago?
Oh, dude, this is going back again, 2000, 2001.
It was a very uninformed opinion, okay? When you have nothing to lose. And therefore, you can have a self-righteous stance saying, no, fuck you, man, let the people download the music. Because it doesn't hurt me any if they download my music. At best, rather at worst, it gets me promotion. People... more people hear my music. Metallica, everybody knows Metallica already. They've got everything to lose by this because now...
That's true.
And so it's understandable that they would do that. I think maybe I didn't necessarily agree with some of the things they were doing at the time, but, in hindsight now, I can't fault them.
Yeah, what I took away from there is that these were artists who saw... Maybe they started to, not understanding it, they started to see where things were going. Mm-hmm. And I think they saw, hey, this is with, and I will come out and say it. People who were downloading, they say, oh, I downloaded it just to see if I like it. And I go, bullshit.
That's not true. I used to do that.
I'm talking about the masses.
Okay.
Okay, I'm talking about when I was in the college dorms and stuff like this at the time. And in high school, I know people who had thousands of Napster songs. Mm-hmm. Did they have those on CDs? Did they go up? Maybe a couple.
Yeah.
So I see, and I completely understand trying to protect your interests.
Sure.
Because that's money being lost. But what I didn't agree with, and what I wish some of these bands would have done, is that if they would have seen the exchange of information and their music to how easy it is online, that the process of that time could have been different. And if you watch the documentary, and I recommend everybody check it out again, it's called Downloaded. What ultimately did Napster in was they got sued a couple times, and they had their last federal injunction against them. They found an early internal email from one of the two or three guys who started it up, and in that internal email, I'm going to try to remember this correctly, they said that they needed to kind of put some anonymous system in place to kind of protect the users who are pirating music. So the federal government latched on to that. Hey, we got them. Here they are saying pirating music, and that's what they ran with. And that was ultimately their death sentence.
One of the reasons that I started doing a review site was me trying to justify free music. I didn't want to hurt the music industry, but I had a voracious need for more music. More than I could afford to buy.
Very much so.
I can pretty much afford to get what I want now, but starting a website gave me the opportunity to contact record labels and have them send me music for free. So I could get my free music. Obviously, I had to work for it by doing reviews, but that's really the origin of Metal Disciple back in 2 iterations ago before it was Metal Disciple. But yeah, that's how I got into that, because I wanted to get more music than I could afford without having to steal it and kill the bands that I love. And now I get so much music in the email every day, I can't keep up with it. But I still pay for music in the form of vinyl. That's how I support the bands now.
You buy stuff on Bandcamp all the time.
That's true. I use Bandcamp too as well. In fact, I think I'm going to be talking about 1 or 2 bands from Bandcamp today.
So, thanks for letting me talk about that. That was very interesting. And again, if you have any experiences with Napster or downloading music, please shoot us an email. George at wearemetalheads.com or Buke at wearemetalheads.com. Share with us your thoughts. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on Napster or downloading music at the time, or if you were aware of what was happening, the changing in the currents.
Do you still download now? And if you do, how do you justify it? Is there any way that you give back?
I'll be honest, once streaming came out, personally, I don't download.
Yeah.
I've never really been big into it morally, but streaming to me is just easy.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's funny because, back in the day, during the Napster day and all that, it was a free-for-all. It was like there was no moral compass going, don't do this. People were just, it was a free-for-all. Everybody was like, yay, free music.
Yes,
and now there's a stigma attached to it. It's like, you download, you're a piece of shit.
Because remember, you started seeing lawsuits and stuff like that. A lot of stuff we do as kids, but you started seeing people who, guess it was pop music, but you started seeing people who had 100 songs getting sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And then in the past couple years, you would see metal bands, I think Iced Earth.
Yeah.
Their label, who controls the album, just recently sued a couple years back a couple hundred or thousand people who had downloaded one of their albums.
Yeah.
It's either you pay $1,000 to settle on this, or we're going to sue you for $500,000.
Yeah. I think I understand the need for trying to protect intellectual property, but some of these fines are a little outrageous.
Outrageous.
It's like, okay. I mean, if you're somebody that's like got a server and you're spewing out free music left and right to
like a command center
to millions of people, okay, I can see hitting you with a big fine. But if you're somebody that downloaded an album, okay, I think maximum penalty there should be like
$50 or something.
$50, $100, whatever. Slap on the wrist and confiscation of the music, because I realize that they're making it so outrageous as a scare tactic, but come on.
Yeah, there was that one famous one, that mom or something, that got hit for a couple $100,000 or something.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That doesn't endear the music listener towards following the rules. That makes you want to say, fuck you, I'm gonna do this to fuck, because you fuck with somebody, we're gonna fuck with you. Anyway, so I was on eBay this morning. I'm rather an unscrupulous eBay shopper. I'm what you might call an eBay sniper.
So am I.
I don't...
When do you place yours?
In the last 15 seconds.
So do I. So do I.
I can't imagine why anybody would bother to bid on something in any earlier than the last minute of the auction, because that just gives everybody else an opportunity to come along and bid it up higher, and it just drives the price up, which is good for the seller, and that's why it's set up that way. But I'm an eBay sniper. I watch something, I wait until the last minute, I decide at that point, is it in a range that I'm willing to pay, and how much above that am I willing to go? And then in the last 15 seconds, I put in my max bid. I'm like, okay, it's at $20, I'm willing to pay $40. And I'm not going to go over $40, so I'm just going to throw in my max, and then if, whatever it takes to get into the highest bid up to that max, I get it. The whole reason I brought this up was because today I picked up a couple of Sepultura albums, the first two, Morbid Visions and Schizophrenia. And it was like, they were two different auctions, same seller, and they were a couple of minutes apart, so I was able to finish one and then move on to the other. Morbid Visions, I got it for about $4 more than what the high bid was, so that was the rare, I threw in my bid, nobody had countered, nobody tried to outbid me at the last second, and I got it. I'm like, sweet. All right, so let's go with the second one. And I'd had a combined total that I was willing to pay for the both albums before going into it. And since I'd made out well on the first one, that meant I had a higher ceiling on the second one that I was willing to pay. So just to be sure that I got it, in the last 10 seconds or so, I put in a bit higher of a bid than I would have normally gone. And something that I do when I'm bidding to try and give myself that little extra boost is, like, say I'm bidding $50. I'll bid $50.01.
I do that too. I do like 89 cents and stuff like that.
And today, I got Schizophrenia by 1 cent.
Really? Because a couple of times I have lost. When I try and snipe, I set my max bid $28, whatever, $28.30. And then the auto bid from that other person
kicks in,
and I lose it by 2 cents or something like that.
Yep. It went all the way up to my max bid plus 1 cent. So that means... okay, so say it was $50. Somebody had their max bid at 50.
At $49.99?
No, is it $50?
Okay.
And that like it doubled it because let's just say it was $25.
Okay.
When I, going into the last minute, it was $25, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to put in 50.01 cents as my max bid. And as soon as I hit it, their auto rebid kicked in and bumped it all the way from 25 to 50. But because I was at $50.01, I got it. And I was like, that's the one time that it actually saved me.
That's cool.
And I'm sure whoever bid $50 is fucking pissed.
It's probably for a second. They're like, oh, no. You ever do that where you don't have enough time? The time's ticking down and you can't fix it, and then you've lost it?
Yeah.
The worst is when you ever watched something and like, okay, tonight at 7 o'clock, this ends. And since we snipe, you ever found something really good, no bids?
Yeah.
And then you forget to bid on it?
Yes. I always watch it, and sometimes they send me a notification. I mean, I got notification for these Sepultura albums last night. I'm like, well, how about an hour before? Not 10 hours before. So yeah, sometimes it'll be something that I really want, and I'm intending to snipe it at the last second, and I forget, or it happens in the middle of the night, or it happens while I'm at work, and I can't get to it. So I don't like to bid on things in general. I'm more of a buy it now kind of guy. But sometimes, like, you don't see these first two Sepultura albums on vinyl for anything relatively inexpensive. So
I'm more of a make an offer type, because I don't think some people know what they have.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just something that happened this morning that I wanted to share.
So now, does that complete your Sepultura collection?
I still need Roots. Roots being what I considered the last Sepultura album. All right. So I noticed something in the news the other day. This isn't technically a news story. We'll get into that next. But there's a band called The Raven Age featuring someone named George Harris on guitar. George Harris is the son of Steve Harris of Iron Maiden. There is a lot of Iron Maiden progeny running around out there making music.
His daughter is gorgeous.
Steve Harris's daughter, Lauren Harris, is also out there making music. And yes, she is gorgeous. There's also Bruce Dickinson's son and his band that I won't mention because
Are they still going?
I haven't heard, but I don't care. They were horrible. Lauren Harris was pretty cool. We saw her. She opened.
We did see her live. Yep.
They opened for Maiden. Was it Maiden? Yeah, it had to be. They opened for Maiden. And I heard some live footage of the Raven Age. They don't seem to have an actual like studio recording as yet. And it was more of a power metal. So quality was, low quality live recording, but it didn't sound too bad. So hopefully they'll put something together and George Harris will redeem the Iron Maiden name, unlike Dickinson's kid.
A quick question. Steve Harris the best lyricist in metal?
Okay. Let me think about that. Out of left field, best? Definitely one of the best. Danny Filth writes some incredible gothic poetry.
This is an interesting question. Maybe we'll do a top 3 or top 5 on that.
Yeah, like songwriters or something. Yeah, that's a good idea. But definitely one of the best. All right, let's get into some news now. So Exodus's new album, Blood In, Blood Out, is going to be out on October 14th on Nuclear Blast.
Are you doing that interview?
No. I still haven't figured out how to do any interviews.
If anybody knows how to do interviews, please. So that's not how to ask questions, but the technical.
The recording of a microphone and a telephone so that everything plays together happy and sounds good. I mean, I have some ways of doing it. I just haven't been happy with the results yet. So yeah. I would like to make a recording where the person that we're interviewing doesn't sound like they're talking through their ass, that it doesn't sound like the crappy phone call quality. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Rob Zombie's working on a new movie called 31, and he's trying to do some crowdfunding to get it paid for. Do you like Rob Zombie movies?
No.
No? Mm-mm. I haven't seen all of them. I liked the Halloween remakes he did, and the House of a Thousand Corpses, and what was the other one? Something Rejects.
Another one. I mean, it's an American. That's a band, All American Rejects. Oh my God, I can't believe I just fucking said that.
Whatever the sequel was to House of a Thousand Corpses, those were cool. I didn't see, was that Lords of Salem? I haven't seen that yet. But anyway, thought it might be interesting. So Slipknot released a song from their forthcoming album. The song's called The Negative One. Have you listened to it?
I have. And did you see the talk this week about that too?
No.
About who may be on drums or who may be lending the drums?
I know there was speculation, but I hadn't even given it a thought. What's the speculation?
Chris Adler of Lamb of God.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. I was going to say it's got to be Portnoy.
He's been bouncing around. But Chris Adler is one of my favorite drummers. The guy is freaking amazing.
Yeah. Well, that would be kind of cool, other than, having to split his time between Lamb of God. But interesting. So what did you think of the song?
Decent.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've never been a big Slipknot fan. I liked the first album okay. It was definitely different at the time. Had some cool stuff on there. Second album, didn't like. Third album, didn't like. They really had this way of, maybe it was Corey Taylor's way of singing. He had this cadence that was in every song, and they all sounded the same to me, and it was just kind of annoying. But on the fourth album, he broke out of that. And I think the fourth album's pretty damn amazing. Listening to this new song, it sounds like it continues along the same line. They haven't reverted back to that annoying way of songwriting, so I'm hoping.
Slipknot to me has always been one of those bands I like. I'm just not the be-all, end-all of kids today.
Right.
That think that Slipknot is metal, is the definition of metal.
No.
I know you've all seen the kids that...
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Slipknot to me is always a band, hey, they just exist.
Yeah.
I don't understand their popularity pitch that it's at.
Yeah.
At least it was that for years.
Yeah, I've always felt that their popularity sort of was bigger than their talent, or at least their output. I don't want to comment on their talent because they're obviously talented, but it just seemed like they were more popular than they should have been for what they'd been producing. And that has to do with teenagers at the mall at Hot Topic.
When I worked at the mall, that was them.
Yep. Hot Topic metal.
Food court metal. Mall rat metal.
Yeah. So did you see that Savatage are reuniting for Wacken 2015?
Yes. Believe me, I saw this.
And, of course, it's already sold out before we even had a chance to buy tickets.
I saw that, too. Did you saw the video I posted on your Facebook of them on the mouth?
Yes.
Oh, dude. Gives me goosebumps.
I know.
Think about being over there experiencing that.
I'm like, maybe we can buy, secondhand tickets or something.
How did they go so quick?
I liked Wacken on Facebook so that maybe I would catch a notice saying, tickets go on sale tomorrow. And I know last year, tickets went on sale the day after Wacken ended. And so I was watching. I'm like, okay, today's the last day of Wacken. I'm watching, looking for any kind of indication that tickets are going on sale tomorrow. Nothing other than tickets are sold out. I'm like, what? You fucking bastards. A little notice.
Yeah. And you saw did you see the footage, was it Immortal who played this year at it?
I want to see the Emperor.
Not that's who I was thinking of. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Emperor.
Yeah, I want to see that footage. I saw something of, when I liked them on Facebook, there was something in the feed about live streaming the show, and I'm like, man, I was busy at the time. I couldn't do anything about it. It's when we had people out of town in here, and it would have been cool, but maybe there's, maybe there'll be a DVD or something where I can check it out.
Still my dream.
To go.
Yep, the bucket. If there's and you use a term, if people say the bucket list thing, that's my number one, to experience that with you.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Have you seen this campaign to have Ozzy Osbourne knighted?
I haven't, but now seeing it in the notes,
it seems reasonable, doesn't it?
It definitely does seem reasonable.
On the one hand, it seems a little absurd because he's Ozzy. I love Ozzy. He's a lovable jackass, And so on one hand, it seems absurd that someone who's just so carefree and Ozzy would be a sir. But at the same time, he's fucking earned it, man.
Is it Sir Ozzy Osbourne, or do you call him Sir Ozzy?
Sir John Osbourne. Yes, I don't know, but I'm all for it. I think they should do that.
And if you look at the contribution to music alone.
At the same time, if you're gonna knight Ozzy, you gotta knight Tony and Geezer, and maybe even Bill too.
That is true. Hey, if Elton John can get it,
yeah, Elton John's pretty awesome, and I know you're a fan, so I know you're not knocking him.
Oh, I'm not.
But yeah, exactly.
I just bought another Elton John vinyl the other day. It's self-titled.
Yeah.
My collection's almost.
I picked up one, something about too low for zero. Is it? It's got the one that's got. I guess that's why they call it the blues on there.
That is it. Yep.
I love that song.
It's a white cover, right?
Yeah, I remember listening to that on the school bus as a kid. And It's just such a good song.
My Elton John fandom goes back to, I have vivid memories. And that's the thing about music. I love music is where it puts you out in a place and time. Some of it is just, I know this is a metal podcast, but I'm going to talk about this. When I think of
next week on the Classic Rock Podcast,
I can close my eyes and think about driving in the car with my mom, and this is what we listen to. And you can't be a lover of music and at least not say that it's not good stuff.
Yeah, when I was 18, Metallica was the world, and if anything else was crap, it's like you can only listen to metal and that's it. At some point, you grow up enough to go, that's fucking stupid, There is other music out there that's good. Just because metal is my favorite type of music doesn't mean I don't listen to anything else.
I'll admit, I still haven't reached that point as much as you, but I'm trying.
I listen to a lot of stuff. I don't listen to pop. Okay.
Or rap.
I listen to 80s pop. Like, if Madonna comes on, you're playing like some Like a Virgin. Watch out, man. I am like, do.
You're bebopping and scatting.
Yeah, but like, your Biebers and your Britneys and anything. No, I don't listen to that shit.
Rap I would never, ever listen to.
No, I mean, I listened to some rap in the 80s, like Beastie Boys and like pre-gangster stuff.
Yeah, like when these DVDs, they can make a rap about like buying DVDs, and they were very...
like Will Smith, that was some cool stuff. There's a song, I don't remember, Nucleus. There's a band called Nucleus, and they had a song called Jam On It. And when I was in 6th grade, it was popular. So this was like 1984, and I love that. And I can still like sing every word in that song. But then, and then like some Ice-T and some Ice Cube and NWA, Eazy-E stuff. Like when that stuff first came out, it was tolerable. I was like, this is different. It's interesting. But then it just, it didn't go anywhere from there for me. So not a fan of rap.
Who would you knight first, Rob Halford or Ozzy? If you are King George Washburn.
Ozzy.
Okay.
Simply because he's been doing it longer. Priest wasn't until early 70s. Yeah. So Sabbath was like 69. So Boston has proclaimed August 6th, which is now several days ago, to be Godsmack Day. Fuck you, Boston. I like Boston. I'm a big fan of Boston. I live in Maryland. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Patriots fan. I'm a Bruins fan. But fuck you, Boston. Godsmack, really?
I've always been a fan.
I liked their first couple albums, but what's his name? Sully?
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a douche, from what I've heard. I know people that know him. Bit of a douche. I listened to a little bit of the new album. Wasn't really, whatever. It's not like, I know Boston's done like Aerosmith Day or something, and that seems worthy. Godsmack Day, I don't think we're ready for that.
I could get behind a Kill Switch Engage Day from Boston.
Whatever. I'd get behind that before I got behind a Godsmack Day.
And even then, it would still be begrudgingly.
Yes. I mean, I understand they've done some stuff, but I just don't like any of it.
I like it.
Yeah. So there's a new old band getting ready to release an album. They're called... It's either Riot V or Riot 5. Now, I know it's Riot 5 in the sense that this is the like Mark 5 version of the band. Mark Reale died a couple years ago. I thought that was the end of Riot. But the surviving band members and Mark Reale's family felt that Mark would like it if the band carried on. So, acknowledging that this is a different band, they've tweaked the name by adding the Roman numeral 5 at the end. They have a different singer, which is that was when I stopped listening. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's like also, I think their 5th singer or something.
It'd be like you or I being a Riot.
Yeah. So their new album, Unleash the Fire, is coming out October 28th. I will give it a token listen out of respect for the band, but I can't imagine it's going to sound anything like the band that I know, so who knows?
I just picked up Fire Down Under on vinyl the other day.
Sweet.
$2.
Yeah. Decapitated posted a song from their forthcoming album, Blood Mantra. This is called The Blasphemous Psalm to the Dummy God Creation. Not entirely sure what that means, but sounds kind of metal. I listened to the song. It's pretty badass in typical Decapitated fashion. While Heaven Wept, the semi-local Virginia doom metal band, is getting ready to release their 6th album, Suspended at Aphelion, on October 27th. I've never been a fan of these guys, but I know you like them.
I like them. Again, a doomy, but you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Vocals are a little, cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them.
Cool. Well, be on the lookout for that.
I love their album artwork for all their albums.
Yeah, excellent. let's get into some new releases for this week. I mentioned this album in our last episode's Power Metal edition. Ailstorm is releasing their new album, Sunset on the Golden Age. Have you heard any more of that yet? Have you even heard Drink yet?
I have.
Okay.
It's a fun song.
They have a song called Hangover that's pretty fun, too.
This is good stuff.
It is. It's fun. Belphegor released their album, Conjuring the Dead, this week. Another fucking brutal, brilliant death/black metal album. I highly recommend giving that a listen. Aluvite.
That's how you say it. Okay.
Believe me, I've been looking on how to pronounce that. Aluvite.
I've never known till now.
Has released their latest album, Origins.
I like these guys.
Yes, they are very cool. Definitely recommend checking this out. Entombed AD has released their album, their album, Back to
Which
the Front.
lineup is this?
I know it's got LG Petrov on vocals. Beyond that, I'd have to look at a sheet to know. This is one of those, okay, well, we're not Entombed, we're Entombed AD. So technically it's their first album, but it's not, I don't know. I hate bands that do this. Unfortunately, I gave this album a listen. It's not bad.
Didn't expect you to say that. Okay.
It's not super, but it's kind of good. So, I don't know, maybe they excised whatever the problem was. And I mean, as far as I know, Entombed itself is still around, and so there may yet be another regular old Entombed album, and LG Petrov may be singing on that one as well. I don't understand what's going on in the Entombed camp. And what's with the album title? When I say Back to the Front, what do you think? Disposable Heroes. Metallica.
Yes. Yes.
You said, back to the front. You will die.
Yes.
When I say you will die. Back to the front.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, I was just wondering where they came up with that, because that's immediately what popped to mind. Next up, Mastodon. Remission re-release.
I was just at the vinyl store the other day. I got the first pressing of this.
Yeah.
Yep. March of the Fire Ants off this album. Killer.
This is one of the good Mastodon albums. No
We're not going to get into that. You know I love these guys.
No complaints on this one.
They're the band that... Now, it's funny. When I first heard this album years ago, hated it.
Yep.
Hated it. Now Mastodon's one of my favorite bands. In fact, I may listen to that when I get home.
Right on.
But you know what I found out the other day, speaking about reissues of stuff like that? I was out at our local store. Do you know that there's some companies who repress vinyls, these reissues? Mm-hmm. Do you know some of them? We've had good luck with like Back on Black.
Back on Black, yeah.
Does a great job.
Yes, they do.
There are some companies, I didn't know this until talking to the store owner, they take CDs and they use the CD to rip the vinyl.
That's pretty bad.
Yes. If I would ever found out any of our companies were doing that, I'd never buy a frickin' vinyl from ever again.
Yeah. Well, vinyl's popular these days.
It's going to happen.
And yeah, people are like, well, I want to get in on the vinyl game. I can take this CD music that I could sell for $10, and if I just take that and transfer that to vinyl, I can get people to pay $30 for that.
And people are naive to it.
Yeah.
A lot, you know, the masses are.
Yeah, I'm sure I probably have some.
Probably.
Until you listen to it, there's no way to know.
It's funny, as we talk about it, I've heard some, and I'm like, something about this
doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound quite right.
Mm-hmm. That's probably digital converted to vinyl. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Noct Mystium has released their final album this week called The World We Left Behind. It just figures, I know you've heard me talk about Noct Mystium before, generally in unflattering terms.
Yeah, when I told you the record store had those records, you're like, meh.
Well, I have the newest one. I have The World We Left Behind on vinyl. I pre-ordered it. And I have The Silencing Machine on vinyl as well. The albums before that I just didn't care for, and I reviewed The Silencing Machine when it came out, and I said, look, there's obviously some talent here. There's some good songs on here, but the production sucks ass. Judd, get your shit together and record an album with a decent production, because the songs are worth it. And I was pretty critical in the review, and it was funny because Noct Mystium and or Judd read the review and liked it.
Wow.
Wow. I guess maybe because I was just being honest and I wasn't just going, these guys suck. Why? Because they suck. You were laying at your points. I was like, these are the reasons why I don't like this album. And maybe they respected that. But I like to think that The World We Left Behind is a result of my criticism. Because it's their final album and it's finally fucking brilliant. The production sounds great. The songs are awesome. Why does it have to be the last album?
What if that did stick in his head?
I don't know.
Now, I've never heard these guys. How would you say they're like?
Black metal, American,
Okay.
U.S. black metal. It's not like your Emperor or your Immortal or anything
It's
like
like
that.
it's like the Alagok, wherever you say that.
Agalok?
Yeah, it's like that type of.
Well, I mean, in that it's American, but it doesn't really sound too much like them either. You just have to listen to it. But it's good. I'd recommend it.
If it's black metal, probably not.
Come on. Throw me a frickin' bone. Speaking of which, there's another U.S. black metal band called Panopticon, and they, I remember their last album. It was worthy of note because they throw in some banjo. They're like from Kentucky, and so it was like bluegrass black metal. I listened to it. I was like, I mean, on the whole, the music was interesting. It was definitely of a good quality. Can't say I cared for bluegrass and my black metal.
I kickstarted a heavy metal bluegrass project
Yeah.
years back.
But the new album's called Roads to the North. I haven't heard it yet, so can't tell you what it's like, but it's probably an interesting listen, so maybe check it out. Next is a band that I picked up on Bandcamp, and they just released their album this week. They're called Trudger, and their album is called Dormivelia.
Man, you are hitting the pronunciations today.
Thank you, Google Translate.
Man.
Yep. I just happened to read that it was an Italian word. They're a UK band, but the album title is in Italian. And so I put it into Google Translate, selected Italian, and said, pronounce that for me. I had a feeling that it's Dormiveglia. And I'm like, Dormiveglia. But I was like, I know Italian is like veglia. So something along those lines. I don't know. If you're Italian and I just butchered your language, I'm sorry. But I thought I did pretty good with the first time I said it. It was actually the first time I said it.
It sounded
And I was like, hey, that sounded right. So anyway, it's a sludge band. Really heavy, harsh vocals. Really.
Now you're talking to me.
I think I read a review of it somewhere, and so I looked them up, and the only place I could find them was on Bandcamp, and that's cool because Bandcamp's relatively cheap. So I listened to a few tracks. I liked it. I bought it, and it's pretty cool. You should give them a listen. Go out to Bandcamp and check out Trudger. The final new release this week is a band called Woven War, and their self-titled first album. But as you may know, they're not a new band. This is the remnants of As I Lay Dying, minus douchebag singer Tim Lambesis. This is the rest of the guys who said, we still want to make music. We're going to go over here, start this band called Woven War.
Singer, I think, from Sleeper or something.
I guess, I don't know.
Trina filled that in for me.
Okay. I'm not a fan of Christian metal per se, and I've heard a lot of talk about, don't call us Christian metal just because we're Christians. That's cool. That's fine. Listening to the interview on the Metal Sucks podcast, I got the impression that this was not a particularly religious album. So that's cool. So I was like, all right, well, let's give it a listen. I can respect it. It's not really my style. It's a little more metalcore-ish, but not maybe as screamy. I didn't listen to enough to know. I know there's clean vocals. I know Godless is all about this being like album of the year or something. Sorry, dude.
We still need to get him on the show.
Triptych. Say the words with me. Triptych. Respectable? I can give respectable to Woven War, but that's it. They're nowhere near my top 10 or 20.
Being a fan of Killswitch Engage and the sound, actually, when Jesse came back, the sound that Killswitch has now, that's a lot like what Woven War sounds like now.
That's why I don't like it.
I was just saying that. That's why I don't like it. I love them. So that's why I'm really liking this album.
All right. Cool. Moving on. This week's indie band. We got to play some music. We've been talking for like an hour and we haven't played any music yet. This week's band is a local band for us. A band that we saw play last year. A band that we met. A band that we liked because they are some friendly and
extremely humble.
Yes, some really cool guys from Virginia that make some heavy metal music. I'm talking about King Giant. This is their album, Dismal Hollow. Dismal Hollow was released by the band in 2012. As such, it comes as no surprise that they're currently working on a new album. They asked me to let you know that they'll be back soon with some new music. But to hold you over, we're going to play a song from Dismal Hollow. This is called Appomattox.
fear, nor word, nor whisper of vainglory, nor motion of man standing again at the order, but an odd stillness rather, and breath-holding, as if it were the passing of the dead.
Salute fire! How the king's men don't know why with you else never owned another man. Now their heads ready to die, marching home side by side when the bugles wail, whose pride will swell from the killing field. For their company they died, young men, young lives, on their own they call, for their country they fall to that smoky road right up on my head.
All right. King Giant, Appomattox. What a killer fucking song.
Yeah.
You know what really initially drew me to these guys when I first heard them? Is the vocals. We were speaking about Glenn Danzig earlier. Dude has got a very Glenn Danzig-like voice, in my opinion.
You're right.
Not like a ripoff, just he sings in the same kind of deep and
Kind of smoky.
smoky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very Danzig-like. And I was like, right on.
And for them being local, even better.
Yeah. So I hope you liked that song. If you did, stick around. We're going to have another song by the band at the end of the episode. All right, let's get into our top 3 for this week. Normally we do like top 3 bands, top 3 albums, something along those lines. This time, I was driving home from work the other day and it just hit me. Let's do the top 3 mosh pits that we've been in. Been in or been at. I don't get into too many pits anymore, but I stand upon the border of a pit.
You're good at standing tall, and you're good at the mosh pit edges.
Push everybody away.
Forearm push.
Yeah.
See,
Get the fuck off me. Get the fuck off of
As George has gotten older and going to shows, his side-eye mosh pit leering at some guy bumping into him has really gotten well over the years. Before it gets too much and George's like, I'm out of here. Give me a corner in the back by the bar.
Yeah, I'm getting too old for this shit. But I have a couple honorable mentions because while I didn't think it was like the one I'm going to mention now wasn't like one of the great pits that I was in, but it was one of the great ass kickings that I've gotten in the pit, and I'm sure you know which one that is. That was the Killswitch pit at the Sentenced, In Flames, Dark Tranquility show. I was literally holding on to Buke. I was getting buffeted around so much that I actually threw an arm from behind, like I was drowning, around his shoulder and hung on for dear life.
Me. Oh, I won't let go.
Yeah. Fireman, carry me out of this hell.
And George and I are not tiny guys. So
no, we're both pretty big.
Yeah, picture two big burly men.
Are they moshing or making love? I can't tell.
Save me.
But yeah, but that is not in my top 3. It's probably in one of my top. If I had top 3 ass kickings in the pit, that would be definitely one of them. But anyway, why don't you hit me with your top 3?
Okay. Number 3. This is not a metal show, but momentous event. This was the HFS festival back in like 2000 or 1999. Godsmack was playing.
Oh, jeez. After I go and bash them.
You go and bash them. And you know, a lot of these fests, these are when you're high schoolers or your drunk mom and dads who think because something has a heavy beat or a heavy breakdown that it's moshing time.
Yeah.
So picture me, 17, 18-year-old kid. It's a mosh pit. We start going. This drunk guy stumbles into it. And you ever get the guys who stumble into the center and they're kind of like, I'm doing with my hands now, they're kind of like waving you on like, come on, bring it. Well, I was a football player. I bring it to this guy. I hit this guy, literally knock him out.
Nice.
Okay? It gets to the point where it happens so quick, people are like, who just did that? Like, who the fuck just did that? They are getting security and getting the medics for this guy. And then, now, picture a drunk guy with, a drunk hillbilly is what you look like, hair halfway down his back. Picture him like Christ on the cross. Picture him being carried out above the crowd, passed along, like as they're carrying him to the front.
You're the Terry Crews of the mosh pit.
As they're trying to get him out to the front. And I just kind of, just...
Yeah, who did that?
Yeah, who's the asshole that did that to this guy? Yeah, that was back in high school. That was one of them. Number 2 is a Killswitch Engage pit you and I were in at
the other one.
The other one at Mayhem Fest.
The bloody knees.
Yes.
I was considering that one.
This is memorable because if there was a definition of hell on earth in a pit at Bristow, Virginia, now it's Jiffy Lube Live. Used to be Nissan Pavilion. Mayhem Fest sets up there and Ozfest would play there. The second stage, while there are grassy areas, the second stage here was set up in a gravel parking lot. Mm-hmm. This is not little pea gravel, folks. This is sometimes like river rock.
Like 1 to 2 inch jagged pieces of rock.
Yes. Picture it being mid-July, August. Here in the DC area, it gets humid.
It was 100 degrees that day.
Yeah, humid, 100 degrees. A couple thousand people in this gravel parking lot. Killswitch engages up. Howard is getting the place going nuts. George and I are in the center of this pit, and it is brutal. Just for the sense that the pit was crazy. You couldn't get your footing. Dust is going everywhere.
Pitmageddon.
Yeah, we are soaked. There's dust sticking all over, dirt sticking all over to us. There's clothes flying. There's sweat. We're all bloody from falling down and literally drained us for the entire day.
Cradle of Filth was in on that madness too. They played that same stage.
I remember they had that weird stilt walking thing.
Yeah, the women with the, they hang from the cloth and they twirl and that stuff. It was a really great stage show for
a second stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was memorable.
Okay.
Again, none of these are really big metal mosh pits, like your classic Wall of Death and stuff that you see now. But number 1 is Ozfest 2000.
Okay.
Because it's my first time seeing Pantera, band that got me into metal. I think, hey, great, we're going to see Pantera. The day starts going on. It's going great. Then Pantera comes out. At this time, again, we're back at Nissan Pavilion. This time, but we're in the grass and the lawn. The clouds start coming in. Massive thunderstorms. Massive rain. of course, these events are rain or shine. So now the field of Nissan turns into, when I say an Armageddon, okay, turns into an Armageddon of grass, massive grass chunks being picked up from everywhere. Looks like the Germans' Blitzkrieg is going on. There is grass flying everywhere. There are people running around doing 200-foot mudslides. There are naked girls running around because it's raining. You know, if Pantera was playing, it wasn't a real pit, but the goings on in the crowd
It was just insane.
Now, of course, I've talked about it before. It was also the worst concert experience because I was so excited to see Pantera. Phil was a drunk falling down mess, but
There was at least something redeeming about it.
absolutely insane just to see total destruction, because I had never seen that. To see total destruction of a venue, trash cans being thrown. It was, I never seen anything like that.
Wow.
They easily had to resod the whole entire lawn after that day.
That's nuts.
Easily.
All right. Well, my 3 aren't going to sound nearly as intense as yours, although you were at one of them. My number 3, when you were probably just learning how to not piss yourself, is Metallica's And Justice for All tour.
Yes, that's it.
That was my first real pit. Obviously, the pits in the 80s aren't quite what they are now. They're a little different. They were much more punk-themed and styled in the 80s because we had just stolen it from the punk crowd.
Is that the guys who now you see who wave their arms around and stuff like that?
There was that, yeah. But, I mean, it was still just a lot of, pushing and smashing. And it was the first time that I was... Even the people that weren't actively participating in the pit, you were just crammed in like a sardine, like incredibly claustrophobic, and it was just you could barely keep your feet because everything was moving and swaying, and people are pushing and shoving, and it was an incredibly crazy show. I was separated from my friend. I didn't see him for the better part of the show because it was just a teeming pile of people. My number 2, this was the one that for years I claimed was the best pit that I'd ever been in, that I'd ever seen. It was the most insane. This was Slayer on their Divine Intervention tour at the Orbit Room in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I went with a couple of friends of mine, one male, one female. The female was in tears at the end of the show because she was afraid we were going to die in the pit. That's how crazy it was. It was Slayer. Yeah, it was probably like a Fillmore kind of size, maybe a little smaller.
Man, that must have been cool.
And it was pretty insane. I mean, Slayer fans, particularly in the 80s, 90s.
This is like the cut your arm Slayer.
Very rabid
yes.
fans, and it was a very intense show. That was pretty wild. My number 1, this is more of a sentimental thing than a true violence. This was more of like when you're on the mountaintop and you look out and you see something beautiful, you're like, wow, look at the valleys and the streams. You're like, this is amazing. This pit was one of those, I wasn't in it, I was up above it, we were up above it, but it was a wonder to behold. And this was Anthrax at the Fillmore. It's a pretty decent sized theater, I guess you'd say. I mean, there's no seats on the floor. The floor is open. There's an upstairs and a relatively large stage. And the whole entire floor, we were up on the balcony, the whole floor during the Anthrax were playing Indians and during the war dance, the whole fucking floor.
Now, yes.
It was just a writhing sea of bodies. It was, and Scotty and banging his head and doing his, war dance, and just everybody just losing their shit. And I was like, wow.
That was our first time there.
Yeah, it was beauty and chaos. It has just stuck with me.
Wow, I never knew that. Awesome.
Yeah, that was actually the one that I was thinking of while driving home, going, man, we need to talk about that.
Okay, so what would it take? Is there ever a time that you would lace them up
And get back in?
and get back in? What would it take for you to just get in there? Hey, maybe if you're rumbling for a couple seconds, to just get in there and...
I'd need to drop about 50 pounds, get some nice boots on.
Get somebody to lace them up really tight.
Lace me up. Inside story, we'll have to tell you that one. And, probably a couple of beers in me to, dull a little bit of pain. And then the right music.
You gotta admit that it's just... When you're in it and you're just... You got your buddy watching your back from some assholes who are going to try and blindside you.
Believe me, I miss it, but...
But then you really don't, because now you look at back and this is us being old old now. But
Yeah.
you miss the show and stuff going on.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't believe I just said that. How unmetal is that? Jeez, that's just like saying if you're headbanging, you can't watch what's going on stage.
Well, you can't. Not really. But, yeah, no, I do miss it. But,
You and I had the time. There was a time there when you were my mosh pit buddy.
yeah, well, now's as good a time as any to mention the fact that next week we may not have an episode because we're going to the barbecue. And it's entirely possible we could, see some action next week. Depending on what's going on, who's playing, and what the crowd's like, we could end up seeing action again. It's lacing up the boots. So we'll see. But if there isn't an episode next week, that's why. We're thinking about trying to bring something portable and record sort of an on-the-go kind of thing, but we'll see if that works out or not. So if you don't hear anything, that's why. We'll be back, probably the week after that. I wanted to mention one other honorable mention show. I didn't put it in there because it was at the Fillmore again, but I have to say I was pretty impressed with the pit at the Down show that we went to. For music that was so relatively slow and heavy, people were really getting down in that pit.
That's a good one. I just thought about that. You're right.
Yeah.
Seeing down a lot of times, yeah. That's the first time I was really in the back, taking it in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was. All right, well, why don't we get into what we're listening to this week? What are you listening to?
Well, I started to mention it last week when we were doing the Power episode, but then I had to reel back and remember what we were talking about. This week I'm listening to Suicide Silence, You Can't Stop Me. And I mentioned this last week, but I had to stop myself. This is the return of Suicide Silence after Mitch died in the motorcycle accident a couple years back. This features Eddie, now the vocalist from All Shall Perish, one of my favorite bands. This album, for me, has hooked me and has not left my turntable for the fact that it really does a great job of incorporating the Suicide Silence style that they've had before.
The vibe.
The vibe, exactly. But you take Eddie, what I like from him in All Shall Perish, his vocal skills, combine them together, and you get the new Suicide Silence, which I really like. And apparently the reception on Mayhem for them has been great. Our friend Trina says that some fans were cursing at them, yelling, "Oh, you're not Mitch, and you're not, screw you guys," and blah, 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 blah.
So nobody recognized me?
But, yeah, I've been listening to this. It's good, nothing super, super special, but it's good.
Cool. All right. What I've been listening to this week is the new EP from Necros Christos called Nine Graves. These guys are a German black death band. I first heard about these guys in 2011 when they released their last full-length album, Doom of the Occult. And yes, I do have this on vinyl. Doom of the Occult, that is. I liked it because it was death metal that didn't sound like all the other death metal these days. It's not a Cannibal Corpse kind of death metal. It's a little more dark, like a little bit of black metal ambiance to it, a little bit of doom, but on the whole, it's a death metal record. So when I found out recently that they were releasing a new EP, I was like, yay, new music. I was kind of bummed that it was an EP, but it's a 40-minute EP, so that's longer than, many full-length albums. So I was like, okay, well, it's 40 minutes long. I'm not going to complain. They can call it an EP if they want, but whatever. It's called Nine Graves, and it's awesome, so you should check it out. All right, what about a classic? What do you got?
So I mentioned earlier I was a sci-fi guy, and as I was browsing vinyl the other day, I came upon this, and I forgot how killer of a record it is. The band itself. It is from Florida progressive death metal band with a sci-fi edge, Nocturnus.
Wow.
Their 1990 release, The Key.
Okay.
This is a band that still has evil lyrics, but with that sci-fi twist. I think on The Key, you have aliens that descend to Earth and destroy Christianity.
Oh, darn.
It's, death metal that incorporates keyboards.
Heaven forbid.
Very progressive, technical, has that classic American death metal that I like. So that is the album for me, Nocturnus, and their album 1990 release, The Key. Didn't think I'd hit you with that one, huh?
I did not. You said something old school death metal. I was thinking like Death or Morbid Angel.
Now, have you
or
heard?
Something.
I've heard. Of course, you've heard them.
Of course, I've heard them.
Apparently, the singer used to be in Morbid, or the guitarist used to be in Morbid, and was good friends with Trey, and they were signed for a label for a while that kind of helped them. A really cool album art. So now The Key is on my Discogs want list.
Somebody reissued a Nocturnus album on vinyl recently. I don't remember which one it was.
Is it Thresholds?
Might be. I think it might have been, yeah.
But really cool. The key is cool sci-fi art on it.
Yeah.
It's weird to have a sci-fi in their logo. You know, you see the pentagram in it, and you look at the lyrics. That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going all the way back to 1984 for my classic. This is the self-titled debut album from Metal Church, the David Wayne years.
Self-titled, okay.
Yep. This album, I mean, I think I heard this album before I even heard Metallica. You know, it was like around, it came out about the same time as Ride the Lightning, but I think I heard this first, you know. Something I wanted to mention, but I forgot to mention when we were talking about the whole Napster thing. Everybody downloads music now, but back in the day, it was called tape trading, and, you know, labels weren't really panties in a bunch about that. It's what you did. That's how you learned about new music. Obviously, tape trading was much more limited. You couldn't do it on such a grand scale as what people do with downloading, but that was how I first heard Metal Church. That's how I first heard Metallica, Slayer, Merciful Fate. And so I got a copy of the first Metal Church album from somebody, a copy of a copy on a beat-up old cassette. And this album, you know, was one of my first thrash albums, and it really spoke to me. Every song on here is a classic as far as I'm concerned. And the one song that really drew my attention was the song Gods of Wrath. At the time, it was a curious song because there were clean guitars and pretty vocals, and then it would just get balls heavy. And I'm like, what is this? And we called it a power ballad. Now, you think of a power ballad now, and you think of like Motley Crue, Home Sweet Home, or, you know, this, but no, this was like power. This was it had ballady type stuff, but it was really heavy too. And I fucking loved that song. And like the title track, you know, many, many years ago upon a distant shore. Oh, that song, the lyrics and everything, that just captured my imagination. As well as songs like Beyond the Black, you know, I think that was about like nuclear warfare, and Hitman, obviously, about a hitman. In the Blood, My Favorite Nightmare, Battalions. Oh my God, Battalions. I love Battalions. Always makes me think of the Conan, What is Best in Life. Battalion Advances. Fucking love this album. So
I just picked up The Dark the other day.
Yeah, that one's good too. It's got some, it's good in a different way. I'm a big fan of The Dark.
Dude, the song Watch the Children Pray.
Watch the Children Pray, yeah. So good. Yeah, a ton of bricks. That song just, you know, that was a song that got me going.
Did you see them live?
I did not see them with David Wayne, unfortunately. I saw them the first time, had to be around 1990, 91, it was during Desert Storm. It was called Operation Rock and Roll. And I think Alice Cooper was the headliner. When I first saw Motorhead, Dangerous Toys, Metal Church, I think Judas Priest was there. And I saw them with their second singer.
Did you like I see their album here, Blessing in Disguise?
Yeah, that was the tour, I'm pretty sure.
Did you?
I liked it. There was some good music on there. Obviously, it's no David Wayne. I'm a big, huge David Wayne fan, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But I did like the one or two albums. I don't remember that singer's name, but I did like what he did too. Still pretty cool. All right, well, I think we are getting to the end now.
This was a fun one today.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to run quite so long, but here we are. Guess we had lots to talk about. We weren't here last week. So, before we play the last song, we need to remind you, subscribe to us on iTunes, check us out on YouTube, check us out on Stitcher. You can stream at wearemetalheads.com.
Like us on Facebook, please.
Yep. Follow us on Twitter.
At MetalheadsPod.
And Disciple OV Metal.
And Opeth and at Opeth Fan.
And of course, check things out on MetalDisciple.com for news, reviews, and videos and things like that.
And if you have any stories like we talked about today, downloading music stories, Napster stories, mosh pit stories, concert stories, send them in.
Yep.
We'd love to, if you want us to, we'll talk about it, share your story on the podcast.
Indeed. All right. Until next time, I'm George.
And I'm Buke.
And this is King Giant and the track A Steward's Prayer. Hope you enjoy it.